The F-22 Raptor holds a unique and almost mythical status in the world of military aviation. It's a machine spoken of in hushed, reverent tones. Pilots who fly it describe its capabilities as something akin to science fiction. Its opponents view it as an apex predator, a ghost in the sky that can see everything while remaining unseen. The jet's reputation is built not just on its incredible performance, but also on its extreme rarity. Only 187 production models were ever built. This scarcity has turned the Raptor into something more than just a fighter jet. It's become a symbol of overwhelming technological superiority. A strategic asset so valuable that its deployment signals the most serious of American intentions. The mystery, then, is why the most dominant air superiority fighter ever created had its production line unceremoniously shut down. The story of the F-22 is a complex tapestry woven with threads of stunning innovation, eye-watering costs, shifting geopolitical landscapes. It represents the pinnacle of Cold War-era ambitions, a weapon designed to dominate a battlefield that, by the time it was fully operational, had largely ceased to exist. Its journey from requirement to combat reality was fraught with challenges unrelated to performance. Instead, the Raptor became a political football, a case study in defense acquisition during immense global change. Understanding why the fleet is so small requires looking beyond the machine and into the corridors of power where budgets are fought over and future threats are debated. The decision to cap production has haunted the U.S. Air Force ever since. In exercises, a handful of Raptors can dismantle entire squadrons of legacy fighters, often without their opponents ever knowing. Its ability to penetrate the most sophisticated air defenses and establish air dominance is unparalleled. This makes the small fleet size a constant source of strategic anxiety. Each of the 187 jets is a precious, irreplaceable asset. They are carefully managed, flight hours rationed, and deployments meticulously planned. The legend of the F-22 is a story of what is and a reminder of what could have been, a sky filled with hundreds more of these untouchable guardians. Cancellation was the result of a perfect storm of factors: soaring costs, perceived end of great power competition, urgent counterinsurgency demands in Iraq and Afghanistan, and a political push toward the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. What truly sets the F-22 Raptor apart is its unprecedented fusion of capabilities, often referred to as the unholy trinity of air combat stealth. Super cruise, super maneuverability. First and foremost is its stealth. The Raptor was the first operational fighter designed from the ground up for very low observability. Every line, every seam, every surface on the aircraft is meticulously engineered to deflect or absorb radar waves. Its engine intakes are serpentine, hiding the highly reflective fan blades from enemy radar. Even the paint, a specialized radar-absorbent material, helps to minimize its radar cross-section to a reported size of a steel marble. Beyond its invisibility, the Raptor possesses a capability known as super cruise. This is the ability to fly at sustained supersonic speeds, in excess of Mach 1.5, without the use of fuel-guzzling afterburners. Legacy fighters can only achieve supersonic speeds in short bursts, drastically limiting their range and tactical endurance. The F-22, powered by its two massive Pratt & Whitney F-119 engines, can transit vast distances at high speed, arriving on station faster, engaging targets, and egressing from the combat zone before an adversary can mount an effective response. The third element of its dominance is its extreme agility. The F-22 combines advanced aerodynamic design with powerful engines equipped with two-dimensional thrust vectoring nozzles. These paddles can direct the engine's thrust up or down, giving the Raptor incredible maneuverability, especially at high angles of attack and low speeds where traditional fighters would stall. This super maneuverability allows it to perform breathtaking aerial maneuvers, pointing its nose and its weapons at an opponent regardless of its direction of travel. Finally, these physical attributes are tied together by what was, at the time, the most advanced sensor suite and data fusion system ever put into a fighter. The F-22's AN/APG-77 AESA radar is incredibly powerful, able to track multiple targets at long ranges with a low probability of being intercepted. The F-22 doesn't just see the battle space, it understands it. This god's-eye view, combined with its stealth, speed, and agility, makes the pilot a true battlefield manager, not just a trigger puller. The story of the F-22 begins in the early 1980s at the height of the Cold War. The U.S. Air Force was flying the F-15 Eagle, an aircraft that had established itself as the undisputed king of the skies. However, intelligence coming out of the Soviet Union painted a worrying picture of the future. The Soviets were developing a new generation of highly capable fighters: Sukhoi Su-27, Flanker, Mikoyan, MiG-29, Fulcrum. These aircraft were large, powerful, and incredibly maneuverable, threatening to close the technological gap and challenge the F-15's air superiority. The Air Force needed a successor, a new fighter that would not just match these emerging threats, but leapfrog them by a generation. This requirement led to the launch of the Advanced Tactical Fighter program in 1981. The mission was clear: create an air dominance fighter that could survive and operate in dense, sophisticated integrated air defense systems. The ATF had to be able to penetrate deep into Soviet-controlled airspace, sweep the skies of enemy fighters, and ensure that other friendly aircraft could operate freely. The core tenets were survivability, lethality, and persistence. The program called for a design that incorporated the latest advancements in stealth technology, advanced materials, powerful engines, and integrated avionics. Two competing teams were selected to build prototypes: Lockheed, Boeing, and General Dynamics, which proposed the YF-22. Northrop and McDonnell Douglas, which put forward the futuristic-looking YF-23 Black Widow II. Both prototypes were revolutionary, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible in fighter design. After a grueling and secretive fly-off competition, the Air Force announced in April 1991 that the YF-22 design was the winner. The Air Force's initial plan was immense in its ambition. The service originally intended to purchase 750 Raptors. This massive fleet would systematically replace the F-15C and F-15D Eagle fleet, ensuring American air dominance for decades to come. As the F-22 program transitioned from the YF-22 prototype to the full-scale production F-22A, it began to encounter severe turbulence. The primary problem was its staggering cost. Stealth coatings, advanced avionics, complex manufacturing processes, all astronomically expensive. The program's unit cost began to balloon, far exceeding initial projections. Each delay, each technical glitch, and each engineering change added millions to the final price tag. This made the program a prime target for critics in Congress and the Pentagon. The technical challenges were also immense. Integrating all the revolutionary systems into a single, reliable airframe proved to be a Herculean task. The aircraft's software, millions of lines of code to fuse all the sensor data and control the flight systems. The software was a particular source of delays and cost overruns. The specialized radar-absorbent materials required for its stealth were delicate and difficult to apply and maintain, adding to the lifecycle costs. There were issues with the canopy, there were issues with the avionics, there were issues with numerous other subsystems. Each problem had to be painstakingly solved, pushing the jet's initial operational capability date further and further to the right. These delays and rising costs created a political firestorm in Washington. The F-22 became a poster child for what critics saw as a broken defense acquisition system. Members of Congress began to question the need for such an expensive fighter, especially when the Soviet Union, its intended adversary, had collapsed. The F-22 was caught in a vicious cycle. As the planned number of jets was reduced, the unit cost for the remaining aircraft went up, making it an even more attractive target for cuts. Furthermore, the nascent Joint Strike Fighter program, which would become the F-35, was being promoted as a more affordable, versatile joint service solution. And in the budget battles of Washington, the argument for good enough and more affordable was gaining powerful traction. While the F-22 was struggling through its development, the world outside the laboratory and the factory was undergoing a seismic transformation. In 1991, just as the YF-22 was declared the winner of the ATF competition, the Soviet Union formally dissolved. The primary adversary that the F-22 was meticulously designed to defeat had vanished from the map. The threat of massive Warsaw Pact tank armies rolling through the Fulda Gap, covered by thousands of advanced Soviet fighters, evaporated almost overnight. This single event fundamentally altered the strategic calculus that had justified the ATF program and its planned fleet of 750 aircraft. The end of history was declared, and a peace dividend was expected. The 1990s became a decade defined by a lack of a peer state competitor. The United States stood as the world's sole superpower. Its military engagements during this period were largely regional conflicts against second-tier powers. Balkans, the Persian Gulf. In these conflicts, U.S. air power was utterly dominant. F-15s, F-16s, F/A-18s operated in permissive environments where American aircraft could operate with little to no credible threat. The geopolitical landscape shifted even more dramatically after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. The focus of the U.S. military swung sharply from preparing for a high-tech war against a peer competitor to fighting protracted, low-tech counterinsurgency and counter-terrorism campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq. The new enemies were not fighter pilots in advanced jets, but insurgents with AK-47s and roadside bombs. The urgent need was not for air dominance fighters but for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance platforms, drones and close air support aircraft that could loiter for hours over the battlefield. The F-22, a weapon designed for a war that wasn't being fought, began to look like an unaffordable luxury. The fate of the F-22 Raptor was ultimately sealed by one man, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates. A pragmatic and powerful figure, he served under President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama. Gates was deeply focused on reforming the Pentagon's spending priorities to better align with the wars being fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. He was famously skeptical of massively expensive, technologically exquisite weapons programs. He believed they had limited utility in current conflicts. In his view, the Pentagon was trapped in a Cold War mindset, preparing for future wars, while failing to properly resource the ones it was already in. The F-22 Raptor, with its astronomical price tag and air-to-air specialization, became the prime symbol of this disconnect. In 2009, Secretary Gates made his move. He undertook a sweeping review of the defense budget and recommended dramatic cuts to major weapons programs. The centerpiece of his proposal was terminating the F-22 production line. At the time, the Air Force had received 187 production aircraft. The service desperately lobbied to extend production, arguing for at least another 60 jets to meet its minimum strategic requirements. Gates, however, was adamant. He called the F-22 a niche, silver bullet solution for a threat he judged not significant enough to justify the cost. He pointed to the rise of China, but said existing F-22 numbers, combined with the thousands of planned F-35s, were, in his assessment, sufficient. The political battle was intense. The Air Force and supporters in Congress fought hard to keep the line open, particularly representatives from states with a stake in production. They warned closing the line would be irreversible. Specialized tooling and a skilled workforce would be lost forever. Gates countered with a powerful public and private campaign, framing the decision as funding futuristic weapons versus supporting troops currently in harm's way. Ultimately, Gates's vision, backed by President Obama, prevailed. In April 2009, he formally announced the recommendation to cap production at 187 jets. The final F-22, tail number 4195, rolled off the assembly line in Marietta, Georgia in December 2011, and the line was shut down. Beyond the headline-grabbing cost figures and political debates, the story of the F-22's production is filled with lesser-known details that reveal the complexity of the decision. One of the most significant hidden factors was the sheer difficulty of manufacturing the jet. The F-22's design required manufacturing tolerances that were unprecedented for a fighter aircraft. To maintain its stealth characteristics, panels had to align perfectly, with gaps measured in thousandths of an inch. The application of its sensitive radar-absorbent material coatings was a painstaking, almost artisanal process. It required a climate-controlled environment, and it became a major bottleneck in the production flow. Another little-known fact is the internal Pentagon conflict over the F-22's mission. The Air Force championed it as a pure air superiority fighter. Other factions, including Secretary Rumsfeld's office, pushed for earlier air-to-ground capability. That fight spawned debates and design changes that added complexity and cost. The F-22 does have a latent ground attack capability, able to carry GPS-guided bombs like the GBU-32 JDAM internally. However, it wasn't optimized for that role. Capping production at 187 also had industrial consequences. The tooling and jigs used to build the F-22 were unique and extremely expensive. After the line closed, the equipment wasn't discarded, it was cataloged. It was treated with cosmoline for preservation. It was placed into storage at the Sierra Army Depot in California. This preservation was costly, intended to allow a restart in a national emergency, but studies, including a 2017 Air Force report to Congress, found a restart would be prohibitively expensive, estimated around $50 billion to build another 194 jets, and would take years, making restart largely theoretical. Perhaps the most revealing secret is how the F-35's rise was tied to the F-22's fall. The Joint Strike Fighter was sold as the affordable future of air power. The legacy of capping the F-22 fleet at 187 aircraft is a complex double-edged sword that still shapes modern air combat. On one hand, the F-22 delivered on every promise of performance. It remains, by a significant margin, the world's most capable air-to-air fighter. At exercises like Red Flag, the F-22 posts kill ratios exceeding 20-1, proving its revolutionary design. This small, silver bullet fleet gives the US a critical, though limited, ability to punch through advanced enemy air defenses. But the other edge is strategic vulnerability from small numbers. The declared fleet of around 187 isn't the true combat force. At any time, a big chunk is tied up in training, long-term maintenance, and upgrades. Combat-coded, mission-capable Raptors available are shockingly low, well under 100. That scarcity means the Air Force can't mass them for a prolonged peer conflict like with China. The fleet can't be everywhere, forcing commanders into risky trade-offs. Shutting the F-22 line early sped up next-gen development. Realizing the fleet was too small and that the F-35 couldn't fully replace it, the Air Force launched NGAD. NGAD aims to build a family of systems, likely including a manned 6th-generation fighter and various unmanned platforms. F-22 scarcity created urgency for its own replacement, pushing the Air Force beyond 5th gen sooner. The Raptor's legacy is a cautionary tale about short-term thinking, with Russia more assertive and China modernizing its Air Force, even fielding stealth jets like the J-20. The world the F-22 was designed for has returned. The small, precious Raptor fleet remains a powerful but insufficient bulwark, and a reminder of the cost of betting the future will mirror the present.